So let me go back one slide real quick. So the question is, okay, it's great. So I build. So what should I build? Well, this is actually a complicated question, but for most instances, a super simple one to answer. Because if you're building it as money being the main motivation for building the ADU, whether as a rental or for the equity, regardless, if money is the main motivator in building the ADU, it's a simple answer. Build the biggest thing you can build, period. Because the bigger you build, the more square footage you build, the more rent you generate, and the more equity you create. That's just the end of the story. There's no discussion on that. Build the biggest thing you can build. And per the ADU regulations in California, you can build up to 1,200 square feet. So then it's another question. Okay, I build 1,200 square feet. Do I build one story? Do I build two story? And that's another question. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit more right now. And this is on your screen right now, a picture of that very first ADU we built in Culver City, 2-story with rooftop deck. And I keep using this property because there's still nothing been built better that I've been able to find in the city. And when you look at this property, this answers a few questions. Bigger is better, but also that valuation question we were talking about earlier. How much value does an ADU add? Well, it is a tricky question, but the reality is I think there's a pretty simple metric that you can depend on eventually and in most cases. And that is whatever your property is worth per square foot of the existing structure, the existing houses or the existing units that are there right now. Whatever that's worth per square foot, that's what your ADU is going to be worth per square foot. And when we built this first ADU, we didn't kind of dip our toe in the water. We went all in and we built 2-story with rooftop deck. So we did that for a reason, because this is just a universal rule of real estate. It kind of comes back to that same thing. You get what you paid for. If you build beautiful product, you're going to get the best possible return monetarily out of that product. So we made sure we built the best thing that we could build. I mean, nothing crazy. We didn't put gold color covered, faucets or anything like that in there, but practical things, smart things. So this is an example where building big, this thing is not that big though. This ADU you're looking at right now is actually only 940 square feet, but it's built above and to the side of an existing garage. I got air quotes here, if I can find my camera, because that is still technically a garage, but it's not being used as a garage, is it? Well, that's being actually used as a family room by the person that bought it. Now, it's still technically garage, so it didn't count against the total square footage that we could build. We were restricted on the size of the unit we could build on this because of the size of the lot. Believe it or not, we got all of this on a lot that's only 4,600 square feet. So another kind of tip, and this is kind of some of the things we've already learned in ADU land, is things that you can do to maximize value. Doing this garage thing, maybe that's something you might consider. The other thing is the rooftop deck. That's the best ROI you could ever possibly come up with in the 1-story city of Los Angeles, because when you get a balcony rooftop deck on top of a 2-story structure in a 1-story town, you've got unbelievable views from up there, and it adds amazing value. And adding a rooftop deck is a very low cost improvement because, number one, your structure has to have a roof anyway, right? Well, so the only extra cost to a rooftop deck is a more durable roof because people have to be able to walk on it, and then a set of stairs to get up to it, and then that little 3.5-foot pony wall around the outside so people can't walk off the edge. Well, you put all that stuff together on the high side, you'd probably be talking about $35,000. That added an additional 400 square feet to this property in a neighborhood that sells for over $800 a square foot. Does that sound like a good investment? Damn straight. That's right. So these are just some of the many ADU kind of like specific value add things that we've figured out over the 3 years almost that we've been doing this now, that I take great pleasure in sharing with people. And there's a lot more of them. So once again, I hope that you do an ADU, wrapping things up, and that you consider our company for that. But regardless, I'm available. I'm an open book. You can call me anytime, ask me questions. I'm there for you. And we are offering that free property analysis for you. So just get in touch with me. Our website is super simple, adugold.com. My email address is super simple, Seth@adugold.com. Really easy to get hold of. And if you want to write my telephone number down, I can give you that. And you can put that in the notes if you want right now. And that's 213-784-4447. And I am available anytime. And hope we got it in a reasonable amount of time for you guys. And any questions, let me know.
I appreciate it. You did great, Seth. And as we wrap up here, just a few questions. When I saw that slide, the ADU that you completed in LA, I think I'm curious, so I know our audience is curious. Can you take us through the actual numbers on that? What did you purchase the property for? What was the renovation budget? And if you sold it, what did it sell for?
Right, yeah. Well, let's go back to that. So we purchased that property for $735,000. And we spent about $600,000 total in the total rehab of the front house and the construction of the ADU. And we resold the property, and you can go online and see this, for $1,805,000. So we not only proved it, but in the process of doing this project, we set an all-time new per square foot sales record for the neighborhood. And that's a pretty expensive neighborhood. Like I said, it's over $800 a square foot. So and if you look at this property, you can see that ADU actually represents the majority of the value of that property.
Sure.
A little add-on, it's actually the guy that bought it, guess where he lives? In the ADU, of course, because it's a stunning house. And he rents the front house out for $4,500 a month. And if he was to rent that ADU out in that location, he would get $5,500 a month for it. So the return on that project was very good.
Great. Well, I appreciate it. And then again, for our viewers, we will have links sent out after this webinar to the content that we went through and contact information for Seth, as well as myself. So if you have a project that you are working on now and you want to consider doing an ADU, I would suggest reaching out to Seth. He said he's willing to work for free for anyone that's on this webinar now, so take advantage of that. And if you have any questions on structuring financing for the build or for the acquisition, you can always call us or send me an email or go to the website and do and request a formal loan from there. Adam, any final thoughts, any final questions?
No, I think he answered most of the questions that I had before I even asked him. So I appreciate that. You're very well informed on this issue, and I really appreciate the content. Thank you.
So I have two closing questions for you, Seth. One just came to mind. I'm wondering, and I haven't done too much research myself, but only from the loans that we do here in our office, and we lend in several other states, not just California. Loan requests that we receive for ADUs are fairly common in other states. Would you say that California is leading the way, or do you know anything about other states and how consistent they are with allowing ADUs, and how easy is it?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm really excited about that because this is not a California thing. You know, California is the inventor of a lot of new housing trends, but they weren't on this one. The first place in the US I heard about this was in Portland, Oregon, and Oregon's become a pretty progressive state. But that's not the beginning. The beginning of it, actually, first that I've been able to find any, was in Vancouver, Canada. And they started ADUs over 8 years ago. They're called laneway houses, which is what they call alleys there. But this trend is growing because the housing shortage we have in California is not unique to California either. In many areas, and particularly in the more urban environments, they're facing housing shortages. So there are now already not statewide laws, but there are ADU laws in 32 states now across the country. So ADUs are happening in many hotspots right now. Austin's a hotspot for ADUs, Portland certainly, Seattle, Washington, big time. So there's a lot of different areas, and even in the East Coast, there are some, in Washington, DC even, there's ADUs now. So there's ADU opportunity across the country, and the concepts of it are still going to be universal. There is just one kind of thing, though, that is just a reality of construction, and that is the construction is basically a fixed amount. It doesn't really matter where you build it. It's a fixed amount. So if that's a fixed amount, then obviously the more expensive neighborhood you build in, the more the potential return you're going to get out of that investment. So, and that of course is one area where California shines, particularly Southern California, because everything's expensive here. So if you, I get asked the question, what's the best place to build an ADU? For me, it's pretty simple. I just recommend anywhere along the 405 corridor from Santa Monica all the way down through Long Beach. There's nothing but expensive property there and good opportunities. And some of the areas like Westchester or Hawthorne, these are kind of areas that are a little bit behind but are catching up fast. So there's some real investment possibilities here.
Fantastic. And so final question, I ask all of our guest speakers this particular question. Where do you see the real estate market in the next 6 months?
Well, right now everything's booming. I am, as I said, I'm still a real estate broker and agent as well, and the market is on fire. Multiple offers everywhere. Inventory is incredibly low. Interest rates are just mind-boggling. So that fire, and remember one thing about the coronavirus, it certainly didn't do anything to help the housing shortage. So that's the basic thing that we've got to bank on here in California. Regardless of everything else that might happen with the economy, one thing is a constant. We have a housing shortage, and that puts pressure on existing housing. So that is just true, and it's going to stay true for quite some time. Even if we build as much as we could possibly build, it's still going to take time. So I'm very bullish that the market is going to stay strong. We are definitely heading for some reckoning at some point. I mean, the real estate market goes in cycles. We're going to go into a down cycle. It's a matter of when. It's not if, it's when, and then how much it goes down when it goes down next time. That don't know the answer to, but I think for the foreseeable future, things are looking great.
Well, thank you much. I appreciate the feedback, and thank you again, a big thank you for spending the time with us today. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email those questions to us, and we can get you in touch with Seth. We will send out contact information as well from with Seth's company and what he does. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact him. And so that wraps up today's webinar. Thank you again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Seth.